back to Stat 7 Sports. I'm Contained Kunas, and as of now, we are just going upon the weekend past of the point that the XFL has now been essentially taken out of business for the fact that, but really because of the coronavirus and all of the pandemic of everything going out, it has put the league in more of a financial burden than even Vince McMahon, the owner, the head of the XFL, could have easily expected. Wherever he did form this league on the second attempt, he did have his one attempt in 2001 that had honestly a wider audience the initial time it came on, but that was more for the fact of how violent and how aggressive the entire product would be. But in this case, in order to make it more friendly to all the players and try to get any more spring football out of there, they came up with this. Unfortunately, once McMahon did get tried to do a 3-year run on it that had network affiliations through it. Unfortunately, because of all this, it's been definitely cut short to the point to where we don't know if there's going to be a second season. And just for the fact of trying to compare it to the previous league that came out, not the 2001 XFL version, because the XFL in 2001 actually had a much better results initially than the XFL now, but this is the XFL against the AAF of last season. Because both of these were essentially experimental, pretty much kind of like G League minors for someone who still wanted to play football but couldn't make it the NFL, and an idea for people to still have some sort of spring football after you got done with college football and after you got done with the NFL playoffs. So there was benefits for both the NFL, for coming out college players, and NFL and young players all together. Now, just for a brief recap on it, because it's been a little bit of time, it's been over a month since we've gotten XFL teams, and it's been over a year since we've had, it's been over a year since we had any AAF competition. But here is the comparison for the teams on it. So going from the AAF, you have all the way all the way east from Orlando to all the way west to San Diego. And for the XFL, it is from Seattle to New York or DC, I'm not sure. Seattle to Tampa. So yeah, actually a wider range on them, but just to compare some of the output from the AAF versus what the XFL did this past year, a lot of it I'm kind of basing off of how people consume the product, between how many people saw it on TV and how many people actually went to the physical games. So I initially had this messed up to where it's like, I had researched this ahead of time where I thought that, it would have been like 3.9 million to start for the AAF, and then 3.1 million for the XFL. But each of the games, viewership-wise, averaged over 3 million for the XFL. So both leagues had some of the same problems, to where the AAF kind of fell flat sooner for the fact that they couldn't play their players. And I only showed the 5 weeks off of there just so I can make a fair comparison between them, just because the XFL didn't have more than 5 games for each of their teams. So yeah, both leagues had a very stark decline from week 1 to week 2, because everyone thinks, the initial idea is nice, but how is it actually going to hold up? So essentially the AAF pretty much lost 50% of its viewership from week 1 to week 2, and then week 2 to week 3, nearly a half again, and then just kind of came back, didn't really diminish too much off. After that, really ended up having roughly 15,000 in stadium, but the viewership through television, all those media markets outside of that, usually stayed around the 800,000 mark overall. That's for all the games combined. So if they could have, it's really been like for pretty much 4 games, you get 800,000. So that stayed fairly consistent, just kind of diminished slightly, a little bit more, a little tick down here or there through the next 3 weeks on it. But to compare with the XFL, they lost a third of their viewership after week 1, another quarter week 2, 1 million week 3, and another 1 million week 4, week 5, and so on and so forth. Now, the one thing that the XFL was able to kind of get better set than the AAF is that the AAF had, the Alliance of American Football had their week 1 to where they had the sponsorship through CBS where they could actually televise their games on CBS on a major station for that initial week. And if it would have gone further on into the playoffs and all of that, that would have also televised the championship game. For the XFL, they had the rights to be able to put it on Fox. They could put it on NBC. They could put it on ESPN. So they had other markets that they can put it out towards more of the major stations. So that was one that, because a lot of the fact for Vince McMahon having previous experience on it, being able to get it out to more people at any place possible. And he kind of realized for that first year, even with this, it's like he was willing to lose money on this project this first initial year to get the ball rolling and just to be able to kind of start building a following, and then towards the second and third year of this, he could have actually built it up into something that could have been sustainable. With the Alliance, their main issue was the fact that they just ran out of money to pay their players. And it also didn't help that after initial week where they had the CBS, they had the TNT, CBS Sports, NFL Network, they lost that major market with CBS to where they had to go on to just the TNT, CBS, and NFL Network. So TNT still is a fairly major market of a television programming channel. Now they combined to have more viewership in that week 2 than CBS Sports and NFL Network combined. Because yes, some stations aren't going to have those channels on it. So that's kind of to be expected. But really overall, AAF, the only thing they can really say that they were able to do better for than the XFL is the fact that they got more games off. And that's a little bit more because of just the surrounding atmosphere of everything that's going on around us currently now. I won't go into too much details because I'm sure most of y'all are sick and tired of hearing about it. But they're able to get all eight teams were able to play portions of, they're able to play 8 games each, so that was 32 games for all of them. And the XFL were only able to play 5 weeks, so there's 20 games. And a lot of these markets for these teams were, just going back on the previous one, were based off of ones that a lot of the viewership is going to, especially the in-stadium viewership, is off of a few of those teams that really were kind of starving for football and have very good markets to where there's going to be interest kind of regardless. For the AAF, you have San Antonio. They don't have a pro football team. You have San Diego. They just lost the chart. they just lost the Chargers to LA, so that's the two main ones for them. And also the third one being Orlando. And that's your three teams that end up averaging over that average point of 15,000 viewers. Of the 15,000 viewers in attendance. For the XFL themselves, they had just a little bit more average attendance on there, like in stadium, and they had basically 3 times the amount of viewership on television, where their main markets that ended up passing over the attendance mark that really built it up kind of above and beyond was St. Louis, who just lost the Rams also to LA. And then you get Seattle to be back in that little eclipsable dome that the Seahawks have, and they get to play in the Seahawks in CenturyLink Field. So that was kind of an experience within itself. It's in that case, it would have been a cheaper game to be able to get out there for any fans with it. Because you would see, very typically, you get every single game that averaged over 20,000 fans worth of attendance in games for the XFL. Those included either St. Louis or Seattle. And it was up to like 27,000 for that game in St. Louis with both those teams. For the AAF themselves, they really had, Orlando and San Diego barely had over that 15,000 mark, and San Antonio had around 18,000. So a lot of their big market areas were based off of, for the XFL, a quarter of their teams, and for the AAF, 3/8 of the teams. But this is just a little quick comparison of these last two kind of one-year formed leagues that end up falling apart for different reasons. Please let me know if y'all enjoyed this. I don't mind going over a few more things like this. There is going to be more content in the future. I just wanted to get a little bit away from only just dealing with NFL draft content. This is something a little bit different, and for the fact that I actually put out a XFL content, partial XFL content video before with a friend of mine. And I thought I should actually come back to that in some sort of fashion. In this case, it kind of worked out for the unfortunate circumstance. But if y'all do enjoy this, please like it, please subscribe, share it out to other people. I personally would love to see the XFL being able to go on after the season. I enjoyed it, seeing St. Louis getting some sort of pro football back in their yards, for the fact that I have family that lives right outside of St. Louis, and just be able to build off of some of the unique rules that they implemented that could end up potentially going into the NFL to just kind of branch out more interest for it. But that's not what this is about. This is more on this is just the closures of these leagues, that just going off of what happened between each of them and how they went down separately. But yeah, please like, please subscribe, please share it out. Trying to get this to, well, let's just start with double digits and then we'll try to build off of that. But thank y'all for watching. I'm Contained Kunas. This is Stat 7 Sports. I'll see y'all next time with probably a mock draft for the first round, April 23rd. All right, see y'all next time.